Hello everybody. Today I want to welcome you to a new series that I am starting on drawing landscapes with graphite. There's going to be 10 episodes, not including this one, and the main focus is going to be on drawing clouds and trees. It's something I've been planning for quite a while, and now it's finally happening. But before I get into how the series is going to work, I want to do an overview of how to draw clouds and trees. When it comes to drawing landscapes, clouds can be scary. But they don't have to be. First of all, what is a cloud? A cloud is a visible mass of condensed water vapor and sometimes ice crystals. Clouds come in different forms that bring or signal different kinds of weather. There are 10 basic cloud types. When drawing clouds, there are two things to consider. What cloud type are we drawing, and where our light source is? Let's start with the light source. Clouds are 3D objects, basically, so they have a light side and a dark side. In these examples, we have the light source coming from the upper left, from behind the cloud, from above the cloud, from below the cloud, and from behind the viewer looking towards the cloud. For clouds that are more spread out, covering most or all of the sky, the light source will be more diffuse. However, there will still be light and dark areas of the clouds, which may be subtle or dramatic depending on the types of clouds. Speaking of, the main difference between clouds is their appearance. Cumulus clouds are puffy, cirrus clouds are wispy, and stratus usually blankets the sky. Stratocumulus clouds are puffy like cumulus, but are spread out like stratus. They can occur in patches, long rows, or cover the entire sky. Altostratus usually covers the entire sky and can be completely featureless, with maybe a bright spot where the sun is trying to shine through, or they can be dark and threatening, though usually only signaling light rain or snow. The real threat comes from the towering monsters known as cumulonimbus. These clouds can tower up to 10 miles high, and sometimes higher. Also known as thunderheads, cumulonimbus clouds can bring heavy rain, lightning, and sometimes hail and tornadoes. One of the main tools with drawing clouds, besides the pencil, is an eraser. There are different erasers, each one useful in their own way. Another important tool is a blender. Whether it be a blending stump or a Q-tip, even a napkin or tissue is good for blending. Typically, a napkin or tissue is used for toning the sky or blending out large sections of the sky. The blending stumps and Q-tips are used for more detailed blending. There are three basic ways I like to draw clouds. The first method is toning the paper and using an eraser to create the clouds, and then go in with a pencil to add shadows, and blend with a blending stump or Q-tips and define the highlights with a small eraser. The second is to draw the sky around the clouds, and then go in with the pencils and blending tools to add shadows and define the highlights with an eraser. The third method is drawing the clouds with pencils and then using the blending tools and erasers to add detail. Each method usually depends on how much sky is visible and or what kind of clouds I'm drawing. There are many, many species of trees, which mean there are many ways to draw trees. We're just going to cover the basics. When drawing trees with leaves, you could draw the trunk and branches first, and then add the leaves. This works great for trees with more sparse foliage. You could draw a tree indicating the shadows first, and then creating texture, making sure to use darker marks in the shadowed areas. You could draw a tree focused on the texture first, and then adding the shadows. Or you could draw a tree by drawing from the top down, adding each branch with foliage, one at a time as you work down the trunk. This works best for evergreens. Trees in winter require more detail when it comes to the branches. Drawing each individual branch and twig can be overwhelming, but there's a trick to drawing twigs. I learned this trick from another artist on YouTube, Miroslav the Pencil Maestro. Instead of drawing each individual twig, draw clusters of twigs using light pressure and circular motions and or soft lines spreading out from the ends of the branches. I'll link his video in the description box below. Here are a few ways you could draw evergreens. Draw a trunk, then draw each branch individually with foliage starting from the top and working down the trunk. Keep the tree narrow at the top and wider at the base. Draw a tree using simple lines and strokes coming out from the trunk of the tree. Draw a tree using a combination of both techniques. Draw a tree using circular motions to create a more solid or filled out tree. There are many types of tree bark, but today we're just going to look at 5. The first is a typical tree bark drawn with vertical lines of varying lengths. Next is a birch with white bark with dark horizontal patches. Notice I use light shading for the shadowed side. Rough bark texture is created using circular, somewhat jagged marks. The fourth example is more of a smooth bark, but there is still some texture because of the tooth of the paper. You could use a blending stump if you want for a smoother bark. The last example is a deeply furrowed bark. Drawing leaves on a tree may seem overwhelming, as you may think you have to draw every single leaf, but that is not the case. You want to instead create leaf-like textures. For a tree with large leaves, you want to use a somewhat loose, circular, squiggly motion. For trees with small leaves, you want to create leaf texture using small circular motions. For trees with tiny or feathery leaves, you want to create a fine cloud-like texture utilizing the tooth of the paper. For evergreens, you could create texture using deliberate lines for the needle-like texture. Or you could create soft clusters of lines similar to the deciduous trees with the fine texture. Or you could do a combination of both. Any combination of lines and or circular motions could be used for deciduous and evergreen trees. These are just a few examples. And here are some examples of foliage that hangs from the branches. A palm tree, though its leaves don't usually hang straight down. A spruce tree, most common with Norway spruce and brewer spruce. Even some hemlocks have a pendulous habit. And of course the most extreme example is a weeping willow. There would be 10 episodes as there are 10 basic cloud types. So at the beginning of each episode, I will have 4 bags to draw from: clouds, trees, evergreens, and deciduous. I will draw a cloud name from the cloud bag to see what cloud type I will be drawing, and then I will draw from the tree bag, and it will either say deciduous or evergreen, so then I will draw from either the deciduous bag or the evergreen bag. The species of tree that gets drawn will dictate, for the most part, what kind of landscape I'll be drawing based on where these trees naturally grow. The sky will be determined by the cloud type, obviously, but I will have 20 trees to choose from, meaning I won't know which 10 of the 20 I'll be drawing. And, if this series does well, I will do a second season with the remaining 10 trees using colored pencils. If you're interested in following this series, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, see you next time!